Ooh, apron, take back dinner.
What we do here at the Liars Club is we have two of our comedy pals come on. We ask them to tell two stories. One is the truth, one is the lie. We try to figure out with our friends that are playing along, like Mr. Kenny Lofgren, which one is the lie. Let me introduce Mr. Michael Evans, our on-air producer. Hi, Michael.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Felicia.
Both of these guests, we've been trying to get on for a long time, so I am super, super excited. This first lovely lady and hilarious comedian, she was a finalist on Last Comic Standing Season 7. She is a staff writer for the Conan O'Brien show. This is Laurie Kilmartin.
It only took a pandemic to get you on this show.
This gentleman, I've been trying to get him. I'm so excited. He is a regular on Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club show. He is a Canadian. We won't hold that against him. And a finalist on Last Comic Standing as well, Season 9. This is Mr. Ian Bagg.
Hi, everybody. I've got a deep voice, and I'm ready to play.
We're going to rotate the stories around, and I think we're going to have Laurie start off. Laurie, your first story.
Okay, I mean, just to let you guys know, I have very few stories in my life. So this isn't even my story. This is a story, both of my stories are from my grandfather and my family. My grandfather was in the National Guard in New York State, right after World War I. It was like, I don't know, maybe 1918, 1920, something like that. And he was working in the State House in Albany. There was a hotshot lawyer at that time named Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This was pre-polio, so Franklin was moving around fine, and he was kind of apparently an arrogant asshole. And my grandfather was guarding a door that no one was allowed to pass, and FDR wanted to pass it, and my grandfather took a bayonet and held it to FDR's throat and said, "You can't pass."
Wow, what an interesting tactic you're taking. By using, we've never had that where somebody's done it completely, like just a family story that you're not even in.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, because this is a podcast, but a game, and that's very crafty with you, Laurie. Kenny would like to say something very quickly, if we can unblock Kenny.
Okay.
What did FDR do to get the bayonet to his neck?
He was trying to go to a place that was restricted access that my grandfather was guarding.
And what year was this?
It would be post-World War I, but pre-polio. And he's obviously not the governor at that point. He's just a lawyer.
Yes, Michael?
What played out to get to that? Did he get physical, try to force his way by? Like, how did he get to bayonet? You know what I mean?
Well, he was just holding a bayonet. That's what they had back then. And right. FDR wanted to get past him, and he just went like this and said, "You can't."
Okay, wow. So they were just straight to the point with that shit.
At that time, FDR wasn't anything. He was just a guy in Albany, another lawyer in Albany.
What area was he protecting? Like, why was that?
He was in the State House.
State House. And so we're going to assume that your grandfather remembered 20 years later or 30 years later when he became a big deal, or?
Yeah, I mean, you would remember someone that was sort of a hotshot asshole. I mean, think how many people we remember from early in our careers. You know, you kind of know their name, and then when you see them rising.
Yeah. Now, did he know him other than that? Did he know him by sight, or just because he had his name on the uniform? Like, did he really know him, or that was just so weird?
I don't think so. I mean, he was just in the National Guard working. He was stationed at, the State House. I don't think they were friendly or anything like that. It's two different types of people. It's like a lawyer, right, some kind of government lawyer, and a military guy standing at a post.
Right. What do you think, Ian? Do you think this is a true story or is it a lie?
I had no idea I was involved. I apologize.
He's writing his lies right now.
I was Googling it, and I say bullshit. No, I'm confused. Was your grandfather trying to stop polio? Was that what he was trying to do? Because if he was trying to stop polio, he did a horrible job.
No, that was a huge fail and a big family shame.
Yeah, okay. I can see it. I'm just like, if you're lying, it's fantastic. If you're not lying, it's fantastic. I'm just in awe either way. Like, I'm pretty sure my grandfather once cut down a tree. Like, I think it's nothing, but I don't, I want to say, I was trying to Google when World War One ended. Was when I got caught. Actually, I was trying to. I was just like, when did World War One end? How did your grandfather? Was he hurt at all in World War One? Do you know?
No. He didn't serve in World War One. He was in the National Guard.
Oh, so yeah, those National Guard guys usually stay at home and drink all the beer.
No, he was like a retailer. He had a store in Albany, so I think whatever this was his side thing. Right?
Haberdashery.
We need to establish the rules that there's no Googling. Absolutely no Googling, Ian. No Googling.
Thanks, Kenny. You might want to go change your jersey to a ref shirt.
No.
I've never wanted to give anybody polio more.
COVID.
Wow. All right. Well, that's a first strong story. Jessica, any feelings of whether it's true or not?
How did you hear this story?
From my dad.
Yeah.
And his brother. I mean, it's like family lore.
Oh my God! Look at Laurie Kilmartin lie. Look at that.
Oh my God!
All right, Ian. Let's go to your story.
When I was a kid, my mom used to watch all the murder shows and kidnap shows. The kidnap shows were big. Like now it's murder, but when I was a kid, everybody got kidnapped on a TV show. You were always getting kidnapped. And I always thought I was going to get kidnapped. All right. And me and my sister and my friends used to go ride bikes down at the wood where they would keep the lumber yard, right? There's a lumber yard because I grew up in a logging village. And
Let's say the lumber yard, yeah.
I was going to call it the wood yard, but and you could ride through all this lumber, right? And it was all stacked up to be shipped off to Japan or China or wherever it was going to go to. You could ride around and get lost, and nobody'd ever find you. You could disappear for days. Anyways, we were riding our bikes there one time, and we didn't live that far from it, and this truck came in. So the truck's going really slow, and I started riding away because I'm panicked that I'm going to get kidnapped, and my sister and her friend go the other way, and I thought I heard a scream. As I rode away, and I thought my friend and my sister had been kidnapped. So I started riding my bike as fast as I could out of the lumber yard. And I got out of the lumber yard, and my dad and his friend were in the front yard having a beer, almost like King of the Hill style. And as I got there, I said, Jocelyn and Karen have been kidnapped by those people in the truck. And the truck just happened to come driving out at that time. And my dad jumped in front of the truck, and my dad's friend pulled a guy out of the truck, and they started punching him in the face because they thought my sister and her friend were being kidnapped. And just as that was happening, my sister and Karen came riding out of the lumber yard totally fine. I thought somebody had been kidnapped, and they hadn't, and I got somebody beaten up. Terrible, terrible child.
I have some questions.
I was hoping.
Okay. First of all, it's interesting how your storytelling is way different than the cadence of your joke telling. Of course, everyone is that way, but in the sense of, as you were telling the story in the beginning, you were repeating a lot, like Chris Rock repeats how he repeats. You were doing that, and that's so not like you.
Sorry.
So,
I apologize for playing.
No, I'm just wondering if it's like a tick like you have when you lie, if you do that, if you're a repeater like that. Like, I'm lying, but I'm wanting to know the truth, so I'm confirming it again and reconfirming it, like the pieces of the story. That's my only thought. And I want to know, where exactly was the lumberyard?
The lumberyard was just, it's actually the liquor store now. It's just down the street. Karen's house was here. Our house is down the street a little bit further, and it was right next to Karen's house.
So how far would you say that was? Like a football field?
Yeah, maybe like a block, a small town city block, small city town block.
Yeah.
So when you say lumberyard, was this like cut down trees, or were they actually already? cut into like 2x4s or whatever.
Yeah, so there was a mill in town, and they would all the trees would come there, and they'd cut them up into different styles of wood, and then they'd take this lumber, and it would be stored in this yard, and then the big trucks would come get it, and they would take it to Prince Rupert, which is an hour away, where they would send it to Asia.
And how's Karen doing now?
We've never seen her again. She's fine. She's a mother of 3 and lives in Alberta.
Is she still a big cyclist, into cycling still?
I lost touch with her. I wasn't allowed to play with those kids anymore after that.
I bet she's still into it.
Oh, you're really going for Karen, aren't you? I must have described her well.
I don't know. I don't know if Karen exists, Ian. That's what we're trying to figure out.
Oh, you're trying to figure out if Karen exists? You think that's the lie? Oh, my God.
I have to say, I believe any story that involves a Canadian and lumber. Those are the only 2 things I need for it to say it's true.
Yeah.
That could mean so many different things. Kenny, what are you doing? What are you writing down?
What I'm doing is I'm literally writing down notes. I'm finally writing down notes. Are you sure it was through China and Japan? Sorry.
Oh my,
Yeah, dude.
Columbo panicked.
Yeah, he was gunning for my job and just got canceled right away on it.
Let's move it along then to Laurie's second story. I want to see her style of storytelling after that.
All right. So this involves the same grandfather, sort of. His wife, my grandmother Marguerite, was one of 7, and she was the only girl. She had 6 brothers.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And one of her brothers, Tom, something was off about him. That's who he was described. I don't know if he had autism or if I don't know what the problem was, but he was always described as off. And my grandmother took care of him. And she was sort of his caretaker even after she married my grandfather. And he became, I guess, sort of a burden. And my grandfather arranged for him to have
Accident?
It was a bayonet accident.
This is an episode of Ozark.
No. My grandma just would work with him a lot. You know, she loved Tom very much. And so he arranged for Tom to have a controversial brain surgery in the 60s. And Tom ended up being a vegetable. And my grandmother, she was angry about it. She didn't never speak to my grandfather again, but she was outraged because he did that without her permission.
So what happened to Tom? How did he have to go to a home? What happened?
Yeah, he went to a home.
Okay. We just helped you out.
Is that what they call? Is it called a lobotomy?
It was a lobotomy, yes. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, ma'am. I got a couple questions here.
Okay.
I got to be honest with you. You seemed emotional during that. I was like, you seemed upset by it. So that's why I was like, oh my goodness. I almost had to leave the room.
No, I didn't know Tom, but I knew my grandmother. And you always felt like it was a source of great pain for her.
Right. And so how long did Tom live?
He died in 2005.
If you didn't know Tom, how do you know that?
I don't know. That's just when he died. He lived a long time, but he wasn't doing much. He was just sort of in a home.
He didn't have many miles on him.
No, his face looked good. He wasn't out in the sun, wasn't frowning. Yeah, no, he looked good. No, but he was just sort of I don't know. It was in Albany, when we grew up in California, it felt like a thing that was very, very far away. And it was literally far away, but also just generations away. And so it kind of never, I didn't really think about it super hard until after I had a kid and realizing how painful that would be to lose somebody that you cared that much about, because she kind of mothered him, I guess, in a way.
And Did you ever see him?
No.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to. Yeah, he was a vegetable, right? You said after the surgery.
Yeah, that's what I was told. Again, like it wasn't like a hot topic in the house. It was just a thing that was, we just knew kind of happened, but there was a lot of other cousins and stuff that were lively. So no one really focused on,
This is what's throwing me off is that you're like, it wasn't a hot topic in the house, but yet when I asked when he died, you were on it. And you were like 2005. Like, no doubt about it. That's when he died. So
She
how
also
did
forgot
it come
bitch. She also said bitch, too, at the end of that. 2005, bitch.
I'm thinking, how did it come up in your family? It's just like you're at dinner and you're like, oh, you know what? You know that guy Tom, the vegetable? Oh yeah, he died.
Well, we didn't
short for tomato.
Yeah. Oh my God.
In the middle of a dinner, somebody said, pass the vegetables, and they said, what about Tom?
Oh man.
See, it's real. It's real. That's how I know it's real. That's what I tested right there. I just tested the water, and it was hot. Oh my God.
Well, I think 2005, was that her younger brother or her older brother?
Younger.
By how much?
I guess like 5 years, maybe. She died in 1979, so he kind of lived on and on and on.
Yeah. How old?
Well, life is not fair, huh?
No.
How old was she when she passed?
I guess she was 85, maybe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I missed that it was her brother. So here I'm thinking it was just some Uncle Tom.
No. Yeah, it's her brother. Yeah. He's like my great uncle.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go to Kenny. Can you unblock Kenny? I thought you wanted to say something, Kenny.
Well, I just wanted to say that things are going really well right here.
No, I will talk for sure. I can't.
Excuse me, ma'am.
I always put myself in my thinking about when my mom worked in a nursing home, and so I always think about that and think about all the people that I knew back in the day and never thought about maybe those people were once mentally shocked. And I never even thought about that. Like, I'm now putting myself in those positions.
Kenny's actually got feelings. I wasn't expecting this.
And when you say he was a vegetable, so he couldn't move his body at all, he was just like having a machine breathe, or like what exactly does that
I don't
mean?
think there was a machine. I think he was just, I don't know.
He wasn't on auto tune or anything like that.
Yeah, there was no iron lung. No, he was just he was like sort of the tragedy in the attic, I guess.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't really think about him a lot until lately.
Okay.
So you guys made me tell the story. That was what I started thinking about him when I tried to tell the story. It's really gotten to me.
Normally you would say, yeah, people aren't going to play along in a game where they have to lie about a tragedy in the attic, and you fucking just jumped in, Laurie Kilmartin.
Yeah. I love it.
Jessica, any thoughts?
I feel like she's actually human. I didn't think she was human before.
It feels like maybe she's trying to play it up now, but then I get that wrong a lot. And maybe she just really is a bad liar.
Right. Yeah, I felt like that she was very hesitant when she was telling the story. Like, it felt like, so it's always a hard line when someone isn't that on their story, because you're like, oh, are they just remembering something rough, or they just don't remember the lie they want to tell? So it's always kind of a confusing thing. So we're going to move on. And Ian, why don't you go ahead and start your second story?
I'd like to start my second story by saying, Laurie Kilmartin's a liar!
Oh my God.
Sorry, okay.
That's true.
That's true. I was about it was before I started doing stand-up, so I was very young. I was probably about 18 or 19, and I was working in a grocery store in an Indian village. It was called Hazelton, British Columbia. It was 2 hours away from my hometown, where the lumber mill is. And
it's true.
I worked there with my friend Kevin, and we'd work light shift, and we'd stock all the store up. We'd stock it all up. I learned about Guns N' Roses. I was listening to Guns N' Roses about that time, so I was very young. Guns N' Roses. I'm like, man, these guys are crazy. We'd smoke pot in the morning. We'd go for a drive and we'd smoke pot at this looked like a farm kind of thing. And one morning we were smoking pot at the farm, me and Kevin, and I was petting one of the horses. Petting a horse, right? Because we're near this farm. And I was petting that horse, and halfway through, I realized I was petting a moose.
Oh my God.
I was very high, and turned out I was petting a moose, and I walked away very slowly, and we drove away. And because moose are very large, because I remember thinking this horse is very big. That's what I remember thinking. And then I was just like, oh, it's got an Adam's apple too, because I don't know if you know about moose, but the guy that had this huge Adam's apple, and I was like, I am so high.
And you're like, oh, he's got a satellite dish on his head too. That's great. What did you think? What did you think this whole deal was?
Well, he didn't have the horns.
Okay.
So, they don't have them year round. He didn't have the horns. It wasn't like I wasn't that dumb. I'm like, look at this. Oh, man. Look, this horse has got a crown. It's crazy.
I mean, it's like twice the size of a horse, though, right? Isn't it? So
it's huge. Yeah, that's why it's so stupid of me not to realize it was a moose while I was petting it.
Mike is fully on point right here.
Why? In what way?
Because the moose would be for sure way too big for you.
You're going to be such in trouble when you find out this is real. You're going to be so in
What time of year was it?
It was autumn.
Well, it turns out the horses on the farm weren't even horses, so who knows if it was even a farm? There was just foliage.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't inside the fence. It was on the outside of the fence.
So you were standing inside the fence petting?
No, I was on the outside of the fence,
Uh-huh.
petting this huge animal, which I thought was a horse.
The moose was trespassing then.
No, it wasn't inside. It wasn't inside the fence. It was on the outside of the fence. It wasn't on their land.
I can't imagine, because aren't moose supposed to be like incredibly dangerous? Like,
that's what I'm saying. That's what was so crazy about it.
all right, so let's have Michael do the recap, and then we're going to take a vote.
Okay.
All right, so in Laurie's first story, her grandfather was in the National Guard, and this is pre-polio FDR. This is when he's still like a hotshot lawyer back in those days. And long story short, Laurie's grandfather is guarding some sort of important door at the State House, and this is when they held bayonets all the time. And FDR wanted to get in, and he said, "You can't come through this door." And he put a bayonet blade right to his neck, FDR's neck. I mean, before he was really FDR.
And I'm with you, Michael. I mean, go straight to bayonet seems a little crazy.
Wouldn't that be the modern day equivalent of, like, say you're guarding a door now, and then, like, imagine, like, some lawyer coming up who's hotshot enough to be in the building, and he goes, like, "Hey, man, can I go through there?" And you pull out your gun and go, "No," right to his face.
Yeah, I would totally do that. I guess you guys shouldn't be guarding shit. That's what we've learned.
That's a good point. Yeah.
No, but that's a really excellent point, Michael. That's a really excellent point. And you know what got me when you told this story is that you did the little act out with the bayonet. You never do act outs.
Chris Rock does that. Chris Rock does act outs.
I don't know. What do you think, Jessica?
I'm with Michael. Going straight to bayonet seems so crazy. That'd be like macing somebody just for asking a question. You know?
You never been to Albany?
Guys, he didn't stab him with the bayonet. He just moved it closer to him.
Oh, the second story. Oh, this is your grandma was one of 7 children. She was the only girl, and something was sort of off about Tom, one of the brothers. That's how it was described, was off, and she sort of became the caretaker. And then your grandfather had this guy's good. This guy's pretty extreme. The same guy who held the bayonet to the throat commissions a controversial surgery, some sort of lobotomy.
Probably did it himself with that bayonet.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that grandfather does not fuck around.
Honey, get me the FDR bayonet. I'm about to let this boy go.
So,
oh my God.
If it doesn't work out, he becomes a vegetable in his tomato for the rest of his existence till 2005. and that's it. And I don't know. It's always once I say it out loud in the recap that it feels obvious to me, but I don't really know. These are both. It's strange that no stories about Laurie here. No story Laurie in this shit.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was thinking that was a very clever tactic on her part because, I mean, you weren't even there for any of these. Like, you weren't even around. These are old stories. Mm-hmm. You went back into the history books.
Mm-hmm. I'm big on Ancestry.com, so I feel like everything that happened to my family happened to me.
Oh my God. Whatever. Kenny says the second story is true. And most people wouldn't, as I said before, wouldn't trot out the family tragedy, but Laurie does all the time.
For the win.
So I'm gonna say the second story. But the last time I didn't go with Kenny, I lost. I know. He's like, don't put it on me. What do you think, Jessica? Which one?
I'm just gonna have to kind of go with my gut on this one, and my gut is telling me that her second story about the vegetable is a lie.
I think you're right. What do you think?
I think she's a goddamn liar. I think the first one's a lie. I think FDR was a strong man, and that's why he had those bad knees. There's some lights. Now I'm gathered to see me. I think the first one is the truth. No, a lie. And the second one's the truth because the emotion she showed, I know emotions. And unless she's an Academy Award winner named Meryl Streep, there's no way she could give us that kind of emotion. So second one is real. First one is lie.
But Laurie Kilmartin have emotions?
I know.
Guys, I'm human.
That's what scared me. I seen her at a four-way stop before. She didn't even care.
That's why it's a lie. The second story is true, but Laurie's the vegetable.
Michael?
Wow.
Emotional vegetable.
I didn't come here to be insulted like this.
I love you, Laurie.
I think that it's funny that either way this shakes down, her grandpa was like a really wild dude.
Yeah.
Like definitely probably. I think if the second one's true, man, we all made a lot of jokes about that.
You better hope it's not true.
I think that it is, and you said it's like family lore. Fuck it. All right, I think the second one's not true.
Ooh.
Laurie, let me ask you a quick question. Who took care of him once your grandmother passed?
He was just in that home, whatever that nursing facility he was in. No one took care of him.
Make it sound like he's a fish. We just gave him food and then we let him just stay in that bowl.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we were in California. I don't know. And I was young and
the second one's true because she's getting all fired up. She wants to say, fuck you back. Fuck you.
I'm going to say the first one is true and the second one is the lie. I'm going to say that. And I know I'm going to lose because Kenny's always right. All right. Everyone's voted. Laurie, which story is the lie?
The second one.
Son of a bitch.
Oh, that's me. Hell yeah.
Yes.
Are you serious?
That's the story of Rose Kennedy, actually. And I get very choked up about it because I feel bad for her, so it worked for me.
I'm more mad that we're allowed to steal somebody else's story. I created one of mine. I'm not going to tell you which one, but I created it.
It was, for me, the tip off was the ages of your grandmother and then him, and then when he died 2005 he was like 107 or something, like,
That was a huge fuck up on my part. That was Rose Kennedy's birth date and death, and I was like, oh fuck, that doesn't line up with my grandma.
That's really funny. Well. You know what you should say? And they started an Olympic foundation.
All right. Well, let's move on to the recap for Ian's stories.
Perfect.
All right, so So in Ian's first story, back when he was a kid, his mom watched a lot of kidnap shows, which was like the murder porn of its day, right? And so of its time. And so Ian was always real paranoid about being kidnapped. And he liked to ride bikes. He and his sister and his friend, they liked to ride bikes down at the lumber yard. It was a fun place to ride around before the lumber got shipped off to Japan or China or wherever it needs to go. And then one time a truck came in, it's driving real slow, and he's kind of tripping because he's been seeing kidnap shows. He's not into them. He thinks the truck's going to kidnap them. And so he kind of starts riding away, and then he hears a scream, and it figures that they must have gotten kidnapped, his sister and his friend. So he just keeps to his course. He gets home, and he tells his dad, holy shit, I think they just got kidnapped, right? And that truck did it, right as the truck is pulling out. So dad and his friend go out in the street, stop the truck, pull the guy out of the truck, and beat the shit out of him, and you got a guy beat up for doing nothing. Oh, they rode around the corner and came home safely right then.
Ringing their bells. Bling, bling, bling.
Well, let me ask you this. So what happened to you afterwards?
What do you mean, what happened to me afterwards?
Did your dad was like, what the fuck? Why'd you say such a terrible thing? We're going to get in trouble. We beat this guy.
Oh, he just called me an idiot. He probably used that word that Kenny loves to use, and just called me an idiot. And he's like, God damn it, boy. God, such idiot. You got a guy punch in the face. I remember Bob Smythe having to apologize to the guy for punching him. Sorry, we thought the girls were kidnapped. And, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
He drove away.
But we're generally kind of around the same age, kind of. I might be a tick older, but...
I'm 35.
Okay, so we're not.
Ticks, Felicia, couple ticks.
But I remember
FDR.
having a fear of being kidnapped as a kid a lot, too, because there was a lot of kidnapping going on when we were kids, like in the late 70s.
Yes.
Right? There
Totally.
was a bus that got stolen and dumped the hole.
Everybody was kidnapped. That was the big thing. And the Moonies. My mom would always warn me about the Moonies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of leaning towards this one, but I want to hear the recap for the second one. Kenny, do you have anything you would like to say about this story?
There's a lot of things I'd like to say about this story.
Well, let it out, goddammit.
I got to keep them to myself.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
All right, do you guys want to get this second recap here?
Do it.
Yeah.
So when Ian's 18 or 19, he works at a grocery store in an Indian village with his buddy Kevin. They'd stock shelves and they'd listen to Guns N' Roses and shit. And they like to smoke pot in the morning on the way to work. They'd stop at like this farm and they would smoke some pot there. And one time, Ian's extra high. He's petting a horse. He's like, wow, this is a big horse. I'm so high. And it turns out the horse was actually a fucking moose. And that's the story.
Correct.
Questionable.
No, I think it's real.
You do?
I do. I think I do. I mean, there's a lot of moose in Canada. I'm sure he got really high. I can see more of a Guns N' Roses guy than a
And you went in with Mr. Brown down.
paranoid kid about being kidnapped. It just makes more sense. I can see Ian doing it.
Huh.
What year do you think it was that the maybe kidnap at the lumberyard happened?
Oh, like 79 to 81. So I was like really young, like 10. My sister was like probably 5.
So that was back when you could still kick someone's ass and not.
Wait, that math doesn't track if you're 35 right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah, that was back when you didn't even have to wear a seatbelt.
Yeah.
So you could punch somebody in the head and not get arrested for sure.
Which one do you think is a lie?
I think that a couple of Canadians who don't see the kids around wouldn't go straight for kicking this dude's ass. They go, hey buddy, you got the kids, maybe give him a chance to explain. I don't know. I don't have kids. I don't understand that fear, that fire, but I think he would have known that horse is too big to be a fucking horse. I smoke a lot of pot and I know being high, but I don't think I would ever think something's another animal that's twice the size.
Well, aren't you better than everybody else?
Okay.
Can I ask you? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Clydesdale about the size of a moose?
A moose is bigger than that, but that's what I thought it was, a Clydesdale. I'm like, look, it's the Budweiser horses. Just an idiot.
I can't believe that you didn't get your ass whipped by your dad for abandoning 2 5-year-old girls in the fucking lumberyard. Like, to me, You know, although
Well, they did. I didn't say that. They did. Why would you leave them? Is what they said. But I'm like, I'm 10. How am I supposed to protect people at 10? All right, everybody. I'm gonna punch you right in the hip.
Laurie, what do you think?
I think number one kind of happened, but I think they just thought for a second the kids were kidnapped and then they realized they weren't. I don't think they beat the shit out of somebody. And also, if you're looking for
Not beat
children,
the shit, but got punch some guy. The guy got punched in the head a couple times.
you're going to spend your time looking for the kids, not punching somebody. So I think that story sort of happened, and you embellished it enough to make it a lie. So I do believe you're dumb enough to think moose is a horse.
There's the Laurie Kilmartin I know. Her and her vegetable uncle. I was feeling bad for her.
I think the moose caress is real.
Me too. I'm in, Jess. I think they didn't kick that guy's ass.
I'm going to go with Kenny. I'm going to say the first story. No, wait. I'm going to say the first story is true.
Oh, great. Now we're all going to be wrong.
Which story is the lie, Ian?
The story that is a lie is we used to smoke pot at the field, but I never pet a moose. I would just so number two is a lie.
Wow.
And the guy got punched in the head, but he didn't get shit kicked. I would say that, but it was funny. I remember my mom used to scare the hell out of me. I always thought I was being kidnapped. Always thought I was being kidnapped, which is weird that I took off and ran around the world, afterwards.
I feel betrayed.
Sorry, didn't mean to lie to you.
Where did you get that story about the moose? Did you know somebody that did that, or is you just came up with it?
Canadians, I've heard a lot of stories of Canadians confusing horses for moose. Which is stupid because horses have a hoof and moose have a toe, almost like a camel toe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, moose knuckle. That's
moose knuckle?
Yeah.
Ooh.
All right.
Yep.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for spending part of your pandemic with us. We appreciate that.
Thanks for having us.
And
Thanks,
I hope
Jessica. Thanks, Felicia.
Well in your family. Laurie, it makes me laugh so hard when you make jokes about your mother, but it also breaks my heart a little bit.
Both reactions are appropriate.
Okay.
I feel like we should send her a card.
And sign it, Donald Trump.
That'll get her to open it. Yes.
And thank you, Kenny, for playing along with us. What do you guys have that you would like to shout out? Any virtual shows that you might want to direct people to, or your Twitter feed, or whatever you would like?
I have a podcast with Jackie Cation called The Jackie and Laurie Show. And I have the Twitter feed, AnnieLaurie16. I post, whatever my Zoom shows are going to be on that. Okay.
And Ian, what about yourself?
I do a Facebook Live show every night at 6 p.m. West Coast time. It's a Facebook roundtable. I bring in 3 people from different. It might be 3 comics. It might be 3 sports people. It might be 3 news reporters. But we just do a roundtable, and I ask questions from my brain, and we just sit around for 35 minutes. And I would love for some people that are in here, everybody but Kenny, you son of a bitch, to be on the show. And it's on Ian Bagg Comedy on Facebook or Ian Bagg Comedy on YouTube. You can watch it live, so it's live every night.
And we knew you were asking Laurie and not all of us. Okay, so
no, I was asking all you. I'd love it. I do it 7 days a week, so it's 21 guests. So
my God.
So yeah, so I'd love for you guys to. I'll be reaching out to everybody.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us here. Thank you, Michael. What would you like to shout out, Michael?
I'd like to shout out that, as promised last episode when I said I'd change my Instagram name because I was sick of having a confusing one. I have changed it. Follow my Instagram, Michael Evans LOL, all one word. It's a lot easier now.
Thank you so much, you guys. You guys have been awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Follow me all across the board at Felicia Michaels. Jessica?
I'm at Jess Wellington 2 on everything. I think Kenny's a little drunk tonight, and you have been lied to.
When I'm home, I don't want to run errands or have to figure out a meal plan, especially because I have kids. That's That's why Blue Apron is a great solution. Their chef-designed recipes are easy to follow and give you a balanced, delicious meal. Blue Apron is a quick and easy way to make high-quality meals that everyone can enjoy. Use promo code LIARS to get $30 off your first order. Blue Apron, take back dinner.
I'm not telling that one.
Disney believe you. Will the real liar please stand up? What?
She's totally serious.
And you have been lied to.